Hey guys, Ernie here. Welcome to the Paleo Hiker MD channel. Vintage stoves, particularly vintage Coleman stoves, have become a pretty big part of this channel. The first stove that I ever got, first white gas stove that I ever got, was an old Peak 400 that I inherited from my dad. I have several videos on that particular stove, including one time when it caught fire on me. But we got it fixed up, changed some seals, and it really was the first experience that I had with white gas stoves. Now, I bought a more modern version of that stove, the 533, a couple of years ago, and I started to think, has time improved the design of these stoves? Is there any major difference? Well, stay tuned. We're going to put these two stoves up against each other. They're 30 years apart in age, but we'll see how they function and compare them in detail. Thanks for watching, guys. We're going to start by taking a detailed look at each stove, and then we're going to do a 2-cup boil test. I think what I'm going to do, since I'm going to show you guys how to get them lit, is we'll light them. They'll be a little bit preheated, and then after that is when we'll actually try to measure the fuel consumption. It's not going to be perfect, guys. It's not like a lot of these other stoves because you have to get them preheated. It's hard to include the whole preheat process. But anyway, we're going to do our very best, and we're going to at least be completely similar in how we work with them. We're going to get one. We're going to show you guys how it works, how it looks, and after that we'll weigh it, and then we'll go straight into the boil test. And like I said, these stoves are made almost exactly 30 years apart to the month. That's pretty cool. This is my Coleman Peak 1 Model 400 white gas stove. Dimensions are 4.5 by 5.6. Dry weight is 1 pound 14 ounces. These were made between 1979 and 1985. To date these, what you want to do, it's not on the bottom, it's right here on the side, and you can see right there 4 of 1982. So this was made in April of 1982, made in the United States. Mine came with a hard case, a metal case, and a pot holder. This stove has not only an on-off fuel right here, okay, which is how you control the gas. So you can see where that is connected, okay, to the actual fuel tank. So the fuel comes through here and then will go through the regulator. Not only does it have that, but it also has this flame control level, which is nice, and a big difference between these two stoves. You've got clean, low, and light. So this is basically controlling a small needle in there that will clean the system of any impurities and make it run a little bit better. Like I said, a distinct difference between this stove and modern stoves. This also has these little fold-out legs, which I actually really like. Let me show you guys the startup procedure on this stove, and then we're going to do a 2-cup boil test. Well, safety things I always like to review. I have a fire extinguisher right next to me. I have a lot of experience with these stoves. I'm comfortable with the stoves. So I don't have a problem starting them inside. I also have the door open, giving myself plenty of ventilation. Just things to pay attention to, guys. It's got plenty of fuel. Make sure your cap is nice and tight. Next thing you want to do is pressurize the system. Start to pressurize the system. So unscrew this. About 30 pumps will do. One of the nice things about these Coleman stoves is that they're fully pressurized. So you don't have to worry about preheating, or at least preheat with a preheat tray or something. I mean, you still have to preheat them, which you'll see here in a second. So next thing you want to do is, as I said, you've got 2 different controls here. You've got clean, low, and light or high. So we're going to put it to high, which is light. That gives you the most gas going through the system. And then as you see over here, show you guys, it says off, light, and run. So now that we've got pressure in the system, we're going to get our little torch here, and we're going to move this from the off position to the light position. And there it goes, lit up perfectly. What you want to do, just takes a second. It might go out. It has to preheat that fuel. The other thing we'll do, and there it goes, We'll just put a little bit of pressure into it. So it's settling down. I'm still in the light position. When I move it to run, we're probably going to get some yellow. And that's actually not too bad. So it is pretty much ready to roll. This yellow will calm down here in just a little bit. I still have it on on high, and just leave it there until it settles down. You can see it, the burping is starting to go away. When it's on this high, I like to give it just 3 or 4. And there we go. I mean, that looks freaking awesome. I'll show you guys quickly. Let me turn the lights down. There's that sound. I'll adjust the flame. You can see the flame adjustment I have. I can drop it way down. I can bring it back up. It really functions best high. If you go in the middle, it starts to not be as efficient. It'll be fine once it fully preheats. So once again, you've got this side over here for run, light, and then over here you've got high, and you've got very good flame control, which you can lower down pretty low. So I'm going to set up to, I'm going to shut this off, put it back to high, and I'm going to leave it there. We're going to set up for our 2-cup bowl test. Now, one thing, when you use these stoves, even though I just had it on, it can still be a little bit of a mess to get going smoothly. So, haven't changed anything. We're going to go ahead and turn it on. There we go. Go ahead and set it to run. So it looks really good. We're going to put this on, turn this on. You guys can see that very nicely. It is on light high over here on our fine adjustment, and it is in the run position. And we're going to see how long. I did weigh it to see how many grams of fuel we'll use to get this 2 cups of water to a boil. So you guys hang tight. We'll be right back and see what kind of time we get, and then we'll weigh it out. We're cranking up here, boys and girls. Almost always it boils before it reaches 212. So, all right, we're boiling. Shut it off. We are definitely boiling. So 259, 2 minutes 59 seconds. I'd say that's pretty respectable. I'll be right back and I'll let you guys know how much fuel it used. So weighed it, very impressive, 9 grams of fuel. I mean, I think that's pretty darn good. 9 grams is in line with a lot of the other things that we test here on the channel, whether it be propane or whatever. So 9 grams to get 2 cups of water to a boil in a pretty reasonable 2 minutes 59 seconds. Let's check out the modern version, which is the dual fuel 533. All right, this is the more modern dual fuel 533. Now, a lot of people on my video, they commented on the fact that these instructions are clearly not in English, and they are not, but that does not change where this stove was made. This stove, particular one, was made for a foreign market, and this is not a foreign-made stove. It is made in America, just like a lot of the other Coleman products. It is the 533 dual fuel Sportster, as you can see right there. Dimensions are 7 by 7 by 7.8. Weight dry is 2 pounds. Dates of production are 1991 up until the present. I'm pretty sure they've recently been discontinued as far as making these stoves. This particular stove, as you'll see, I'm gonna flip it around for you guys. You can see very clearly it is stamped the Coleman Company, Wichita, Kansas, USA. This is made in Kansas. No case for it when I bought it, which is kind of a bummer. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it, but it was around $75, I think, somewhere around that, $70. I bought it, there's a Coleman outlet in Branson, Missouri, and I always go by there. We go to pick our kids up from camp every year, and I always go by there, and I try to pick up a stove, and this is the one I picked up. So I've been very happy with it. As with all modern stoves like we talked about, it has a single control knob, just basically the same thing as the other, low, high, light, but there's no fine tune, and and you'll see it. You can be the judge as to what you think as far as that flame control. It has a much wider footprint, and it's just an overall little bit bigger stove. Nice stove, definitely a nice stove. Has the modern style pump here, which you just kind of pop off and you can pull out. I'm sure it does not have a leather plunger. Oh, it's kind of hard to open, or I would open it for you guys, but it doesn't have a leather plunger like the more vintage ones do either. But the design up here is very similar to the other one. Let's go ahead and show you guys how to light it up, and we'll do our 2-cup bowl test. All right, well, this is a much simpler startup procedure. I guess it's not. It's the same thing. You just don't have as much control. So same thing, same safety as before. This is nice and tight. Okay, I tend to, just an FYI, so what I tend to do with these is I'll tighten them when I'm going to store them. I'll tighten them till they just start to tighten, just like that. So every time I use them, I have to come and clamp them down a little bit. I just like to store them not completely tight so they don't build any pressure. It's my personal preference. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing, about 30, or until you start to feel decent resistance. All right. All right, we will use our little lever over here, okay? And we'll go to the low, but we need to turn it all the way to high to light it. There we go. As you can see, very nice flame. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a really, really nice flame. Cranks on super fast. Seems to me that it's a little less tricky to get it going. As far as eliminating the preheat time, it works really, really well for that. I don't think it makes a huge difference, but it does preheat just a little bit faster. As far as the flame control, I'll show you guys. It's like off or on, you know. So there's as low as I can get it, and then at a certain point it just kicks on. You know, all this over here makes no real difference, and that's a bummer. It just keep going, and then it finally goes. Now we can go ahead and put a little pressure into it, and it will pick up a little bit, just like that. But we still do not have, I'm just going to say that's all the way to high. We're going to turn, turning, no change, turning, no change. I'll tell you guys right now, I am almost straight up and down. I'll show you. Almost straight up and down. No change in the flame whatsoever. And we'll keep turning it. I am now on low, according to the stove. I'm on low. I'm turning between high and low. High, low. It barely went down a little bit. High, low, keep, and then it just dies almost. So, not my favorite part of this stove. Very poor flame control. Nonetheless, we'll let it die, and we're going to do a 2-cup bowl test. By the way, you can see also that it takes a while for this one to turn off, which is very different than the other one. The other one shuts right off. This one, you just got to wait up to 30 seconds for it to, whoa, there you go. Still just waiting. It is in the off position. It's just doing its thing. And you know, this isn't the best thing in the world to stay on for 30 or 40 seconds after you turn it off. You want to know. I don't know if y'all saw that, but there was a little bit of fuel that kind of leaked out, liquid fuel that leaked out. Not my favorite thing in the world. Let's see if we can restart it. I'm just running it along the outside, and it didn't, so a little concerning. I thought there for a second maybe my fuel cap wasn't on good, but man, this is a brand new stove, and I shut it off. Y'all saw me, I shut it off, and somehow or another, it started it kept letting out fuel to the point where it started to be liquid fuel, and I got a little bit of flame at the bottom here. So super careful with these things. Something you did not at all see with my vintage 400. It gives me a little pause, but you know what? I've run this thing a lot, never had any issues with it, so we're gonna crank it back up. I just weighed it. Let's see what happens. That looks really good. Let's get our pot on, start this up. We'll see again here in a little while when we shut it off what happens, but for now, it runs really well in full blast. And let's see how long it takes to get 2 cups of water to a boil. All right, it's boiling. It is definitely boiling. 3 minutes, 6 seconds. I'm gonna take this off. Let's see what happens here, guys. This is where we had an issue last time. Okay, and it just shut right off. So that's encouraging. I don't know exactly what happened. Last time we shut it off, it cooled off quickly, and it seemed like maybe some liquid gas, liquid fuel spilled into the inside and kind of flooded it a little bit, and I started to have some flames coming out of the outside. So anyway, 3 minutes, 6 seconds. Let's weigh this real quick. Same thing, 9 grams. So 9 grams, and it was 3 minutes, 6 seconds. So to compare, the older model, 2 minutes 59 seconds on a boil for 9 grams. New version, 3 minutes 6 seconds, 9 grams. Pretty much a toss-up when you look at this. But let's talk about what we think about them and which one I prefer. Now, I've had both of these stoves for many years, but I do have more experience with the older Peak one because I've had it a longer time. I'd say I inherited that stove 7, 8 years ago, and the 533 I bought about 3 years ago. So which one do I like more? Well, honestly, it's kind of a no-brainer to me. The Peak one, the 40-year-old stove, is my preferred stove for multiple reasons. Really has superior flame control. The way you're able to control the flame with both different knobs, I don't know why they changed the design. Maybe it was just a cost savings deal, but this design seems to work a lot better. I have a lot more control over the flame. It's slightly lighter. It has a smaller footprint overall. And I do like the idea that it has feet to get it up off the ground. I don't know why, but it seems to me like, especially if you use it a lot and that bottom sits directly on the ground, wet ground, it's gonna break down that fuel tank eventually. It's also, to me, just a better looking stove overall. Now, for devil's advocate, why would you choose the newer stove? Well, it has more fuel capacity, definitely a bigger tank, and it's dual fuel capable, which a lot of people really put a lot of premium on. I don't as much, to be honest with you guys, but some people will favor it just because you can use multiple types of fuel. Basically white gas as well as regular unleaded gasoline. Like I said, a lot of people will look at the dual fuel aspect and say, by far, that's what I want. It makes the difference to me. It doesn't to me. You know, white gas is very easily available. It also stores for a very long time. So I have no problem buying several gallons, 3-4 gallons of this stuff, or whatever the large tanks are, and keeping them. They don't go bad. I tend to use a lot of white gas anyway, but you can keep it at home for an extended period of time. I personally, in this Peak 400, I lit it up after at least 20 years. The same gas was inside. I never touched it. I lit it up and it worked just fine. I think if you store your white gas in reasonable conditions, you don't allow it to get overly hot, I think it won't break down. I think you can keep it for 20 to 30 years without a problem. You compare that to unleaded gas where it's maybe 60, 90 days, the white gas is better. It also runs a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier to maintain your stove. Everybody knows that there are a lot of impurities in regular unleaded gas, and it really gunks up the generators. It makes things very difficult to run long term, and you have to work a lot harder to keep it clean. So for me, white gas is the way to go. And because white gas is the way to go, I really don't care if it's not dual fuel. I favor my old 400. So what do you guys think? Make sure you leave comments down below. Did Coleman advance the design of this stove at all? Like I said, I don't think so. I think it regressed. I think you have less control, and I think it's just not as good a overall stove as the older version is. Thankfully, you can go on eBay and buy these stoves. You don't have to buy the modern 533. You can still buy them new. They are discontinued, I think. I don't think they're making them anymore, but there's a lot still out there brand new. But you could pick up a 400, a Peak 1 series, not very expensively. They're not very expensive. They're kind of in that mode where they're vintage, but they're not vintage. They're not like the 500s or the 502s, which demand a little bit more of a price, and then a lot of the military 520s, the M1950 and M1942, all those things seem to command a little bit higher price. I think you can get yourself, at this time, one of these 400s. Make sure that it has both of the controls if you're looking. Some of them, even the brown ones or the black ones, they do not have this older control system, and they have more of a modern system where it's just one knob and that's it. Many have asked, and I will take this 400 completely apart. I will do that over on my Paleo Maker MD channel. If you're more interested in the nuts and bolts of these stoves, disassembly, cleaning, reassembly, how things come apart, how they go back together, I do all that stuff over there, so make sure you check that channel down below. I'll leave a link to it. I think that this is one of the only stoves I have that I have not completely taken apart, and I think it's time to do it. So probably in the next couple of weeks maybe I'll do that. I'm just not sure. I have a lot going on. Do me a big favor, guys. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up down below. It really does help. That's all I really ask. If you guys like it, hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. That also really helps. Good or bad, leave me comments. I'm totally good with either. I'm doing my best, having a lot of fun, and I think most of you enjoy what we do here on the channel. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscription button, and if you want to make sure you don't miss any videos, hit that notification bell. You will be the first to know when I release new videos. I'm really enjoying this vintage thing. It's taken over, but I have this entire area here now to film, and I've got my computer, and I'm gonna make awesome display shelves up here for all of my stoves, which means I need more stoves because I'm gonna have a lot of room for display. As always, appreciate you guys checking out the Paleo Hiker MD channel. Stay tuned for more videos soon.